Hey, welcome in. Well, Jordan Peterson is putting out a new book, and of course, the usual suspects are out attacking him. Here we have an article from The Guardian. It says, publishers are not obliged to give bigots like Jordan Peterson a platform. So right here in the headline, he calls Jordan Peterson a bigot. Now, to write this, he's either incompetent or he's intentionally misleading his readers. Now, neither is a good thing. Neither is better than the other. Maybe it's just a mixture of the two. Now, the reason he's saying publishers are not obliged to give Jordan Peterson a platform is because there's been a big story about Penguin Random House Canada, who's publishing his book. And I've actually done a video on this as well. It says, Penguin Random House employees broke down in tears at the thought of publishing Jordan Peterson's next book. Quote, he is an icon of hate speech and transphobia. Now, why would they think that? Well, probably something to do with articles like this that are extremely misleading. That's a kind way of putting it. But when we talk about crime, these are adult employees at a publishing house weeping publicly because they have to publish a book. Just think about that. So what does he have to say here? It says, Jordan Peterson, the Canadian psychology professor and lobster-loving life coach. See, right in the first sentence, he just has to put in just a stupid cheap shot that means nothing and has no value. But, this is the way these guys operate. Who came to public attention after refusing to use the preferred pronouns of transgender people. That is a lie. He said he was against compulsion of speech. He's against the government saying you must say this, whether you believe it or not. And he actually addresses this in the links that this guy uses, and we're going to go through them. We're going to go through the links. Okay, so in the links that he provides in this article, we'll see how that is actually a lie. And keep in mind, this is all in the first sentence of this article. Let's see, it says, predictably, the staff who complained were criticized as oversensitive and excessively woke. It is oversensitive for an adult to cry in that situation. I don't know what else you call it. Excessively woke, well, that's obvious. Let's see, the Telegraph suggested that intolerant social justice warriors were trying to censor Peterson. That is exactly what they were doing. Commentator Majid Nawaz said that it showed an insidious danger facing our culture now that book publishers want to ban books. What else do you call that exactly? Let's see. Reasons. Robbie Suave said that militantly woke staffers at these places are determined to suppress viewpoints that they disagree with. That is true. Look at what happened at the New York Times when they published that op-ed by Tom Cotton. They rebelled. All the woke staff rebelled. They had to take it down. I believe the editor was fired. So I don't know what you call that. I would say militantly opposed is probably a good description. Anyway, let's get to these links that he's using to prove that, as we see in the headline, that Jordan Peterson is a bigot. Okay, let's find out. Well, they're links, so they must say what he says they're going to say, right? They must prove his point. Let's see. Here we get to the clips here. After all, he has suggested that gay marriage might be a plot by cultural Marxists. Well, let's take a look.
Oh, another question. Voted up 77 votes. Australia is holding a plebiscite on whether to legalize gay marriage. I'm against the Yes campaign, but only because it's backed by cultural Marxists. I'm curious to hear your views on gay marriage. Well, I would be against it too if it was backed by cultural Marxists, because it isn't clear to me that it will satisfy the ever-increasing, what would you call it, demand for an assault on traditional modes of being.
Okay, so now let's take a look at a longer version of that clip, which I'm sure the journalist was aware of. Anyway, let's see.
But only because it's backed by cultural Marxists. I'm curious to hear your views on gay marriage. Well, I would be against it too if it was backed by cultural Marxists, because it isn't clear to me that it will satisfy the ever-increasing, what would you call it, demand for an assault on traditional modes of being. Now, with regards to gay marriage specifically, that's a really tough one for me because, I can imagine I can't do anything really other than spout platitudes about it, I suppose, unfortunately. You know, if the marital vows are taken seriously, then it seems to me that it's a means whereby gay people can be integrated more thoroughly into standard society, and that's probably a good thing. And maybe that would decrease promiscuity, which is a public health problem, although obviously that's not limited to gay people, although gay men tend to be more promiscuous than average, probably because there's no women to bind them with regards to their sexual activity. The problem is that it does seem to me to be part of a wedge, and it isn't obvious to me that legalizing gay marriage has done anything to decrease the demands that the radical left neo-Marxist types are placing on traditional society. So those are my views. I know they're confused, because I'm...
Like everything with him, it's a deeply nuanced view on it, right? Certainly not politically correct, not by the standards of modern political correctness, but did he say there that gay marriage might be a plot by cultural Marxists? No, he did not. What he said was that if it was motivated by cultural Marxism, he's against cultural Marxism because of the just all-out assault on traditional modes of living. But this is a false statement here. That's false. You may not like what he said in that clip, but it's not what they're claiming here. Just going to interrupt for 1 second to say, if you like this content, subscribe so you can see more. Thanks a lot. How about this, that women wearing makeup in the workplace is sexually provocative? Do you think this is going to be just some hateful misogyny, or do you think it might be a little more nuanced than that? Let's see.
Here's a question. Can men and women work together in the workplace?
Yes, I do it.
How do you know?
Because I work with a lot of women.
Right. Well, it's been happening for, 40 years? And things are deteriorating very rapidly at the moment in terms of the relationships between men and women.
Is there sexual harassment in the workplace? Yes. Should it stop? That'd be good. Will it? Well, not at the moment it won't, because we don't know what the rules are.
Do you think men and women can work in the workplace together?
I don't know.
Without sexual harassment?
We'll see.
We'll see. How many years will it take for men and women working in the workplace together?
More than 40.
To get a sense.
We don't know what the rules are. Like what? Here's a rule. How about no makeup in the workplace?
Why would that be a rule?
Why should you wear makeup in the workplace? Isn't that sexually provocative?
No.
It's not?
No.
Well, what is it then? What's the purpose of makeup?
Some people would like to just put on makeup.
Why?
I don't know why.
Why do you make your lips red? Because they turn red during sexual arousal. That's why. Why do you put rouge on your cheeks? Same reason.
I mean, look.
How about high heels?
What are they for? What about high heels?
What about them? They're there to exaggerate sexual attractiveness. That's what high heels do. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't use sexual displays in the workplace. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that that is what they're doing. And that is what they're doing.
Do you feel like a serious woman who does not want sexual harassment in the workplace, do you feel like if she wears makeup in the workplace that she is somewhat being critical?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think that.
Again, you might not like what he had to say. It's not politically correct. You could see the interviewer there was just very uncomfortable with just dealing with somebody who was just speaking plain truth to them. But that is nuanced, and it's the fact of the matter is, what is makeup for? What is the purpose of making your lips red, your cheeks red? What is the purpose of high heels? What is the effect of that in the workplace? This is a real question. I mean, here he's not even being really that deceptive in his statement here. It's just that it's just imagined that is absurd, even though it's clearly, I mean, taking a hard, rational look at it. Yeah, I mean, what else is it for? That doesn't mean shouldn't do it. But anyway, my point is that was a deeply nuanced answer, and it was not, as in the headline here, a bigoted. I mean, keep in mind, he's a psychologist, right? So he's spent his life studying the kind of deeper meaning of things in human culture and the kind of deeper structures. And, just because, there are questions that people don't want to have to discuss because they don't want to be politically incorrect, say, doesn't mean that they're not real questions, right? Anyway, it continues here. That trans women aren't women because they're not capable of having babies.
Do you think a trans woman is a real woman?
I don't really like the way those questions are formulated, I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well, I'm asking you, in your mind, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
Why not?
Because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant. It doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think that people should be treated with respect and dignity if they happen not to fit easily into a gender category. That's a different issue.
Right.
But it's a matter of definition. And I actually think it's a foolish argument in some sense. Because what do you mean by real?
Well, I mean, you've just clarified that, though. You don't think that a trans woman is a woman. And do you think that that is what is behind or explains your opposition to this idea of a law mandating you to use a preferred pronoun, is because you don't actually believe that that's the truth, that a trans woman is a woman, and therefore you can't use that pronoun?
No, that's not my argument at all.
Really?
Yeah, really. My argument is that the government shouldn't compel voluntary speech.
No, but I know what your argument is, and
no,
you've
but
made
that's
it very
really
clearly.
it. No, but that's exactly it. There's
but the
no
motivation
There's
behind
no motivation behind it.
But you don't believe
I wouldn't
a
have
trans
put
woman is a woman.
everything on my online in my life to take the stance I did unless I had thought that through very deeply. And I've thought it through very deeply. There aren't hidden motivations that have to do with some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Okay.
It's pure and simply this. There's never been a time in English common law history where the government compelled speech, and the Canadian government dared to do that. And that was unacceptable. And they masked it with this show of compassion for the oppressed, and I don't buy it.
Right, but you...
So do you think that this statement here that trans women aren't women because they're not capable of having babies, do you think that covers it all there? His opinion on it? Is it crazy to think, as he says, that, biological markers are relevant? I mean, you're not against the science, are you? Anyway, it goes on. I mean, so I guess the point is that you don't have to agree with Jordan Peterson. But at least to my mind, I mean, according to the evidence this guy gives himself, this claim of being a bigot is just simply not true. It's just not supportable. It's not rational. So it's either ignorance or just, an intentional misleading. And why is this staff at Random House crying? Like adults crying. Adults working at a publishing house crying because of Jordan Peterson's book. Why? It's because of articles like this. Because they never clicked on the links. I mean, maybe they did. I mean, I guess if you're really woke these days, it really doesn't take much to freak you out. It can just be a word or maybe a tone of voice or something, right? I mean, I guess just being opposed to compelled speech is enough to get you in the bad books of the woke these days, right? But anyway, this is an example of why people have such a distorted view of Jordan Peterson. Is he complex? Does he give nuanced answers? Yes. Is he politically correct? No. But he's not a bigot. And it is really disgraceful that headlines like this exist. And it's also a big reason why people don't trust media anymore. Pretty much anywhere. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Please subscribe, like, and share. That really helps me out. If you just like to listen, there's the podcast Radio Baloney. It's on pretty much every platform, including Spotify. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.